The Douglas C-47 Skytrain, a Dakota, is a military transport aircraft developed from the civilian Douglas DC-3 airliner. It was used extensively by the Allies during World War II and remains in frontline service with various military operators to the present day. Design and development. The C-47 differed from the civilian DC-3 in numerous modifications, including being fitted with a cargo door, hoist attachment, and strengthened floor, along with a shortened tail cone for glider towing shackles, and an astrodome in the cab and roof. The specialized C-53 Skytrooper troop transport started production in October 1941 at Douglas Aircraft's Santa Monica, California plant. It lacked the cargo door, hoist attachment and reinforced floor of the C-47. Only a total of 380 aircraft were produced in all because the C-47 was found to be more versatile. During World War II, the armed forces of many countries used the C-47 and modified DC-3s for the transport of troops, cargo, and wounded. The U.S. naval designation was R-4D. More than 10,000 aircraft were produced in Long Beach and Santa Monica, California, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Between March 1943 and August 1945, the Oklahoma City plant produced 5,354 C-47s. Operational history. World War II. The C-47 was vital to the success of many Allied campaigns, in particular those at Guadalcanal and in the jungles of New Guinea and Burma, where the C-47 made it possible for Allied troops to counter the mobility of the light-traveling Japanese army. Additionally, C-47s were used to airlift supplies to the embattled American forces during the Battle of Bastogne. Possibly its most influential role in military aviation, however, was flying the Hump from India into China. The expertise gained flying the Hump was later be used in the Berlin airlift, in which the C-47 played a major role, until the aircraft were replaced by Douglas C-54 Skymasters, a C-47 flown by the China National Airways Corporation pilot Moon Chin, who had previously flown the Hump in the aircraft, had a role in the Doolittle raid. Moon Chin was tasked with flying from Chungking to Myitkyina, a military base in Burma. His aircraft was jumped by Japanese fighters and, after landing at a small hidden airstrip to wait for his pursuers to give up the game, he planned to resume his flight to Myitkyina. One of his passengers, an unshaven, balding, bedraggled American who was dressed in a combination of civilian clothing and an army uniform, suggested that he fly to a field in India since the American had heard that Myitkyina had fallen to the Japanese. When Chin's DC-3 arrived at Myitkyina, he found that the base had, indeed, been severely bombed by the Japanese and hundreds of people were milling around the airdrome. Eventually, Chin would carry 68 passengers and a crew of 4 on the final leg to India. After arriving in India, the tattered American approached Captain Chin and thanked him for the ride. "Believe me, Chin," he began, "if I had had any idea that you were going to jam that many people into this old crate, I would have gone home the way I came." Chin inquired as to how that might have been, and the American replied, "I flew in by way of Tokyo." The short, balding, bedraggled American was none other than Lt. Colonel Jimmy Doolittle, returning from the historic raid on Tokyo. In Europe, the C-47 and a specialized paratroop variant, the C-53 Skytrooper, were used in vast numbers in the later stages of the war, particularly to tow gliders and drop paratroops. During the invasion of Sicily in July 1943, C-47s dropped 4,381 Allied paratroops. More than 50,000 paratroops were dropped by C-47s during the first few days of the invasion of Normandy, France, in June 1944. In the Pacific War, with careful use of the island landing strips of the Pacific Ocean, C-47s were even used for ferrying soldiers serving in the Pacific Theater back to the United States. About 2,000 C-47s in British and Commonwealth service took the name Dakota, possibly inspired by the acronym Dakota for Douglas Aircraft Company transport aircraft. The C-47 also earned the informal nickname Goonie Bird in the European theater of operations. Other sources attribute this name to the first aircraft, a USMC-R2D, the military version of the DC-2, being the first aircraft to land on Midway Island, previously home to the native long-winged albatross known as the Goonie Bird, which was native to Midway. Post-war era, the United States Air Force's Strategic Air Command had Skytrains in service from 1946 through 1967. The U.S. Air Force's 6th Special Operations Squadron was flying the C-47 until 2008, with all of the aircraft and pilots having been part of the Indian Air Force prior to independence. Both the Indian Air Force and Pakistan Air Force used C-47s to transport supplies to the soldiers fighting in the Indo-Pakistan War of 1947. After World War II, thousands of surplus C-47s were converted to civil airline use, some remaining in operation in 2012, as well as being used as private aircraft. Vietnam War. Several C-47 variations were used in the Vietnam War by the United States Air Force, including 3 advanced electronic warfare variations, which sometimes were called electric Goonies, designated EC-47N, EC-47P, or EC-47Q depending on the engine used. Air International Miami International Airport was a USAF military depot used to convert their commercial DC-3S, C-47s into military use. They came in as commercial aircraft purchased from Third World Airlines and were completely stripped, rebuilt, and reconditioned. Long-range fuel tanks were installed with upgraded avionics and gun mounts. They left as first-rate military aircraft headed for combat in Vietnam in a variety of missions. EC-47s were also operated by the Vietnamese, Laotian, and Cambodian Air Forces. A gunship variation, using 3 7.62mm miniguns, designated AC-47 Spooky, often nicknamed Puff the Magic Dragon, also was deployed. Super DC-3. Large numbers of DC-3S and surplus C-47s were in commercial use in the United States in the 1940s. In response to proposed changes to the Civil Air Regulations airworthiness requirements that would limit the continuing use of these aircraft, Douglas offered a late 1940s DC-3 conversion to improve takeoff and single-engined performance. The new model, the DC-3S or Super DC-3, was 39 in longer. It allowed 30 passengers to be carried, with increased speed to compete with newer airliners. The rearward shift in the center of gravity led to larger tail surfaces and new outer, swept-back wings. More powerful engines were installed along with shorter, jet ejection-type exhaust stacks. These were either 1,475 horsepower Wright R1820 Cyclones or 1,450 horsepower Pratt & Amp Whitney R2000 Twin Wasps in larger engine nutshells. Minor changes included wheel well doors, a partially retractable tailwheel, flush rivets, and low-drag antenna. These all contributed to an increased top speed of 250 miles per hour, with greater than 75% of the original DC-3 C-47 configuration changed. The modified design was virtually a new aircraft. The first DC-3S made its maiden flight on the 23rd of June 1949. The changes fully met the new FAR-4B airworthiness requirements, with significantly improved performance. However, little interest was expressed by commercial operators in the DC-3S. It was too expensive for the smaller operators, which were its main target. Only 3 were sold to Capital Airlines. The U.S. Navy and U.S. Marine Corps had 100 of its R-4D aircraft modified to Super DC-3 standards as the R-4D-8, later redesignated C-117D, variants. Initial military version of the DC-3 with 4 crew and seats for 27 troops alongside the fuselage interior. Aerial ambulances fitted for casualty evacuation could carry 18 stretcher cases and a medical crew of 3. 965 built C-47A, RC-47A C-47A equipped for photographic reconnaissance and airlint missions. SC-47A, VC-47A C-47A equipped for VIP transport role. C-47B powered by R-1830-90 engines with 2-speed superchargers to cover the China-Burma-India routes. 3,364 built VC-47B C-47B equipped for VIP transport role. XC-47C C-47 tested with Edo Model 78 floats for possible use as a seaplane. C-47D, C-47B with second-speed engine supercharger disabled or removed after the war. A C-47D Spooky gunship aircraft with 3 side-firing, 30-in minigun machine guns. EC-47D C-47D with equipment for the electronics calibration, of which 26 were converted by Hayes in 1953. Prior to 1962 was designated a C-47D, NC-47D C-47D modified for test roles. RC-47D C-47D equipped for photographic reconnaissance and airlint missions. SC-47D, VC-47D C-47D equipped for VIP transport role. C-47E modified cargo variant with space for 27-28 passengers or 18 to 24 liters. C-47F, C-47L, MC-47HJs equipped for the support of American Legation, United States Naval Attaché and Military Assistance Advisory Group missions. EC-47N, PQ, C-47A and D aircraft modified for ELINT ARDF mission. N and P differ in radio bands covered, while Q replaces analog equipment found on the NMP with a digital suite, redesigned antenna equipment and operated engines. C-47R1 C-47M modified for high-altitude work, specifically for missions in Ecuador. C-53 Skytrooper, troop transport version of the C-47 that lacked the reinforced cargo floor, large cargo door, and hoist attachment of the C-47 Skytrain. It was dedicated for the troop transport role and could carry 28 passengers in fixed metal seats arranged in rows in the former cargo space. 221. Built XC-53A Skytrooper 1 testbed aircraft modified in March 1942 with full-span slotted flaps and hot air leading-edge icing, converted to C-53 standard in 1949 and sold as surplus. C-53B Skytrooper, winterized and long-range Arctic version of the C-53 with extra fuel tanks in the fuselage and separate navigator's Astrodome station for celestial navigation. 8 built. C-53C Skytrooper C-53 with larger port-side access door. 17 built. C-53D Skytrooper, C-53C with 24 volts DC electrical system and its 28 seats attached to the sides of the fuselage. 159 built. C-117A Skytrooper, C-47B with 24-seat airline-type interior for staff transport use. 16 built. VC-117A3 redesignated C-117S used in the VIP role. SC-117A1 C-117C converted for Air Sea Rescue. C-117B VC-117B high-altitude superchargers removed. 1 built and conversions from C-117 as all later VC-117B, C-117D USN, USMCR-4DH redesignated C-117D in 1962, LC-117D USN, USMCR-4DHL redesignated LC-117D in 1962, TC-117D USN, USMCR-4D8T redesignated TC-117D in 1962, VC-117D USNR-4D8Z redesignated VC-117D in 1962, Super DC-3 prototype for evaluation by USAF redesignated C-47F and later passed to USN as XR-4D8. Wright R-1820 engines uprated to 1,425 horsepower. P. Canadian Forces designation for the C-47. 1 C-47 tested as a 40-seat troop glider with engines removed and fared over R-4D1 Skytrain. 20 C-53Cs transferred to USN. C-47A variant 24-volt electrical system replacing the 12-volt of the C-47, redesignated C-47H in 1962. 238 transferred from USAF, R-4D5 then R-4D5 for use in Antarctica, redesignated LC-47H in 1962. Photos of this type show the removal of underslung engine oil coolers typical of the R-1830 engine installation, apparently not needed in the cold polar regions. R-4D5Q R-4D5 for use as special ECM trainer. R-4D5R, R-4D5S, R-4D5Z, R-4D5 for use as a VIP transport, redesignated VC-47H in 1962. R-46 157 C-47Bs transferred to USN, redesignated C-47J in 1962. R-46L, Q, RS, and Z, R-4D8L, R-4D8T, R-4D8Z, R-48 converted as a staff transport, redesignated VC-117D in 1962. RAF designations: Dakota I RAF designation for the C-47 and R-41, Dakota II RAF designation for 9 C-53 Skytroopers received under the Lend-Lease scheme. Unlike the majority of RAF Dakotas, these aircraft were therefore dedicated troop transports, lacking the wide cargo doors and reinforced floor of the C-47. Dakota III RAF designation for the C-47A. Dakota IV RAF designation for the C-47B. Airspeed as. Conversion of Dakota I aircraft airspeed as. Conversion of Dakota II aircraft airspeed as. Conversion of Dakota III aircraft aftermarket conversions. Operators. Accidents and incidents. Specifications. Data from McDonnell Douglas aircraft since 1920. General characteristics: crew 4, capacity 28 troops, payload 6,000 pounds, length 63 feet 9 in, wingspan 95 feet 6 in, height 17 feet 0 in. Wing area 987 feet 2, airfoil NACA 2215, NACA 2206, empty weight 18,135 pounds, loaded weight 26,000 pounds, max takeoff weight 31,000 pounds, power plant 2 times Pratt & Amp Whitney R18309TC twin Wasp 14-cylinder radial engines, 1,200 horsepower each. Performance: maximum speed 224 miles per hour at 10,000 feet. Cruise speed 160 miles per hour. Range 1,600 miles. Ferry range 3,600 miles. Service ceiling 26,400 feet. Climb to 10,000 feet 9.5 minutes.